Hello and welcome back to the MSBaithak podcast. I'm your host Didi, and joining me today once again is my friend and your co-host Vedant. On this episode, we will be talking about the uh, Gallagher GP at IMS road course. So let's grab some chai, take our seats, ready opinions, and dive right into the conversation. Vedant, Christian Lungard has finally taken his maiden podium in IndyCar. Uh, and we've followed it. We have followed his season to some capacity. We've said how consistent he's been, but after the race in Iowa last weekend, it was a little bit disappointing. And David Malukas has scored a good chunk of points, and was within 4 points going into this weekend of Christian Lungard. But this podium has definitely boosted Christian Lungard's challenge for Rookie of the Year, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Christian Lungard was always in the lead for Rookie of the Year throughout the season, apart from a couple of races, right? But I think even though David Malukas and all these guys may score points, but no one is as consistent as Christian Lungard. I don't think he has had a a crash, a contact DNF or something. He may have had a mechanical DNF, but not a crash or contact DNF. And it's been a brilliant season for him. And finally getting that podium at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that boosts the whole essence of the podium itself.
Yeah, it's almost reminiscent of Romain Grosjean and Rinus VK even, coming into IndyCar. And well, I guess Rinus won in his
Yeah,
first season. Maybe not Romain, but being on that podium at IMS is definitely huge. And I'm excited to see where Christian goes. I mean, obviously he's with RLL, and it's one of the better teams. It's not the biggest name, but it's one of the better teams to be with on the grid. So it'll be exciting to see, and it'll be interesting to see if. I mean, I don't know if he has a contract with Andretti going to the next season. I assume he does, but whenever that contract is coming to an end, it will be interesting to see which other teams might reach out for his services, basically, from the top three or four,
yeah,
and
absolutely. I
and where that
mean, I
takes him.
think uh, obviously, I mean, in Formula 2, Christian Lungard was a good name, but he didn't convert it to a Formula 1 seat, obviously. But I think his American career is just getting started, and he could be one of the transferees, as they call it. Like we have seen all these Kiwi and Australian drivers do so well in America, so he could be one of them.
Yup. It will be, just waiting to see what this Danish driver does in IndyCar. But let's talk about the man who finally got a win after 49 races. It was just last podcast that I was talking about how his run of podiums had come to a halt, and he was
Yeah,
not delivering on the McLaren promise that he's had seemed to make. But I have been proven wrong like every podcast. So once again, proud to be wrong, I guess. Alexander Rossi, drove a great race, absolutely dominant. Christian did a great job of following Rossi throughout the race, in the top places. But there was nothing that could have come between Alexander Rossi and the win this weekend. Absolutely, no mistakes, on point, and he just looked poised to take that
yeah,
win from
absolutely.
the get
Just a
go.
clinical performance from Alexander Rossi. That typical, the typical experienced driver champion performance you expect from a driver like him. And yeah, not like, I mean, there's nothing much to add to it, right? He delivered what he had to deliver and just dominated the weekend. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the only person he was competing with was
Yeah.
really his teammate Colton Herta, who who had a DNF, at the very place that he won a couple months ago, which was unfortunate because Colton looked very pacey too, and it would have been interesting to see Rossi, battling it out with Colton as the race went on. But the biggest news, obviously, from this weekend, Vedant, is that we have a new championship leader with just 4 rounds to go, and that is obviously Will Parr. Will Parr finished third, getting that podium and putting himself ahead of Marcus Ericsson by 9 points. So not a huge lead, but we've been talking about that Marcus has been bleeding points since basically since
Yeah.
the Indy 500, and it has finally caught up with him. And he didn't qualify well this weekend. Yes, he managed a few important points in the race, coming through the field, but that is not how Marcus is going to win this championship, and he needs a little bit more, especially since the Penske cars are up there every race. We saw Will Power with Joseph Newgarden and Scott McLaughlin really up there throughout the entire race, and in a way almost helping each other, because of the team games that they're playing behind the scenes with strategy and whatnot. So that is what Marcus Ericsson needs, and this weekend in general didn't seem like a great weekend for Ganassi either. So there's not a whole lot
Yeah.
that would have aided him, but he needs to look out for himself and just
Yeah, well, I mean, Marcus
get it across the line.
did not qualify at all, I guess. His official qualifying, the qualifying result is no lap, basically. So he started P25 and finished
Yeah,
P11,
yeah.
which is a good result in itself when you look at it. But obviously, the championship is falling apart from his hands. The Indy 500 haul is not sustainable when you are not consistently in the top 10. It like a top 5. This is all it shows, right? Like it's evident from the results, but yeah, I think Marcus, with just 4 rounds to go, Marcus needs a win to really stay in contention, because the Penske boys are too quick for the Ganassis, right?
Yeah, and but the next round that we are going to Nashville, Marcus won that race last year after crashing with Sebastian Bourdais at the start of the race, I believe. If you remember anything about it, Vedant. But yeah, so Marcus has had a good result in Nashville, and he'll be hoping to replicate that. So we'll see what happens there in a week's time. But we also need to talk about CGR in general now. Marcus Ericsson is their front runner, right? And I think I pointed this out when we were in Iowa, that I almost thought that CGR would ask Scott Dixon and Jamie Johnson to let Marcus Ericsson by to help him in his championship battle, but that was not the case, surprisingly, and it seems that will still not be the case going forward. And Whereas in Penske, obviously Scott McLaughlin and Joseph Newgarden didn't exactly challenge Will Power this weekend, but I'm assuming we are, late enough in the season where even though Joseph Newgarden is up there in the top 5, they will be making the call to let Will Power, if they're together and Will Power is behind his teammates, to let Will Power through so that they can close out this championship
Yeah, I
as
mean,
fast as possible.
I don't know how that would pan out between Joseph Newgarden and Will Power, because they are only 30 points apart. But like if they do let each other go, or if Joseph Newgarden lets Will Power go, fair play to him. But Marcus Ericsson is also just 30 points ahead of Scott Dixon. So I don't even if CGR tells
Yeah,
Scott Dixon
yeah.
to let him by, I don't believe that Scott Dixon will, because Scott Dixon himself is just 6 points behind Joseph
Yeah.
Newgarden in P3 in the championship. So it's all to play for. It's all to play for them. And it's, Joseph Newgarden and Will Power may not comply with the team orders. And it would not.
I mean, I'm not even going that far. I don't expect drivers to comply to the team orders regardless of where.
But see, when you are
uh, I'm not expecting.
Yeah,
but
but
I'm
when
talking from like a team point of view.
two drivers are fighting for the championship in the same team, like they are really fighting for the championship in the same team, I don't think it's fair to ask one of them to let the other by. Like if if let's say, like, that's what happens,
All
right?
right.
In Mercedes in 2016, 2014, 15, that's what happened. Both of them in Formula 1, both of them were fighting for the championship, and you can't ask one of them to let the other by. So that's what I'm talking about. But yeah,
Don't tell
yeah,
Toto Wolff that. But yeah, but another championship contender who did not have a great weekend was obviously Pato Ward. He got spun out in the very first corner, and that was the race for him, really. And that is not what he needed. After winning in Iowa, he needed to continue that streak of points to get up there with the Penske's and the Ganassis. And he's got. He's not, he's only 45 points behind, but given the fact that Will Parr, Joseph Newgarden, Scott Dixon are functioning on such a high level week in week out, especially on like road courses for the two Penske's. Yeah, Pato Ward cannot let off the gas at all, and he'll need the best from his team and from himself. He cannot. And I think he tweeted after the race, story of my race, gave 3 car widths and still got spun out or something
yeah.
like
I
that.
mean, hard day for Pato, but I think it's been sort of a story for McLaren this season. They qualified so well. They are almost always in the top six. At least one car is always in the top six, and two cars are often in the top six. But their race pace has really affected them throughout the season. And even though Pato has obviously won a couple of races and you know is in title contention, but let's see for Felix Rosenqvist. He started on pole, and then his race pace just fell apart. It's not that he lost out on.
But that has been the
Yeah,
case
but
with Felix throughout his
but
time
but
in
even
IndyCar,
even
right?
Pato
He
has
does not
struggled
have the
with race pace this season a little bit. If like from what I can understand, but I think again he might not be title contender this season, but he can try for the top. Overtake people like Scott Dixon and Joseph Newgarden and try to get into the top three.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. Uh, I, talking about what happened in the race aside, I think this was the first IndyCar race this season where I did not feel entertained as much. I don't know if you had the same opinion of it. It just seemed like
Yeah,
it was not your usual,
yeah,
very happening, chaotic IndyCar race. It sort of like settled into a rhythm, and then it just stayed like that for the, you know, for the large part, and there just wasn't as much excitement. It was almost Formula One esque, in
yeah.
if you want to
Absolutely. I
draw a
mean, it
comparison.
was more of
What
a
were your
Formula
thoughts?
One race where the first couple of laps are entertaining, and then you have some switches happening during the pit stops. And obviously, since it's IndyCar, you have three stops, and there are more chances of pit stop overtakes basically. But as you said, it was not the most happening race. But what was entertaining for me though was my cousin was watching it with me, and like uh, so it he watches IndyCar in the US. He's from Charlotte and he hates NASCAR, so that was funny, right? But I think I discovered that he is a decent motorsport fan. He's young to follow everything and follow everything every time. But I think watching the Formula One races and the IndyCar race with him this weekend was quite fun. And yeah, that that was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah, that's pretty great. Now let's talk about silly season a little bit. We've been talking about Alex Palou a lot, and I think a recent article from the race really hit the nail on the head. Is especially after the comments that we had from Palou's lawyer that Palou has a chance at Formula One and CGR is basically stopping him from having that opportunity. But I don't remember who wrote the article for the race, but the article basically said that maybe it's not a great decision to move to McLaren just because there is a finite chance of being in that McLaren seat, but there is no guarantee. And here Alex Palou has the opportunity to build a long time career like Scott Dixon did with Chip Ganassi Racing, one of the top teams in IndyCar, and to give that up to be with a team like McLaren, which yes, it is trying to be one of the best teams. It is one of the top teams in Formula One and now in IndyCar. But that team will always be in a state of flux, and your position is technically not guaranteed. So if you're leaving a stable career for something maybe more exciting but less of a guarantee, I think we shouldn't be surprised if that backfires for Alex Palou. And he still has a decision to make on that. But
Yeah, absolutely.
we'll see how that pans out.
I mean, here's the thing: if he stays in if he stays in IndyCar with McLaren, it's fine enough, right? They are a bit of a downgrade, but then he would have a team, like he maybe can call it his team or whatever, and he may get more autonomy or whatever that he might not have at Ganassi, right? But if he fails to get that IndyCar seat, because there's like Pato Award is basically already confirmed for the IndyCar seat, and there's Will Power as well, and Felix Rosenqvist as well, Alexander Rossi, sorry, yeah, sorry.
Alexander
So with
Alexander
so
Rossi.
many names, if at all Alex Palou gets gets bumped out to Formula E for maybe in words for just a season, but if he gets bumped out there, then as you said, it would be a great disadvantage for him.
It's not even about that. It's about McLaren. I mean, there is no precedence for
Yeah.
McLaren compared to Chip Ganassi Racing and the way they operate, right, in IndyCar especially. So the axiom of operation is McLaren is trying to make a mark in IndyCar, and they're trying to poach drivers, and they want
Yep.
the best of the best to become the best team possible, right? So if Alex is unable to deliver, just going to McLaren in the hopes of getting that Formula One seat is a bit risky, because you're changing teams, you're changing the way they operate, the way you have to operate with the team, and so on and so forth. Whereas he's got a good thing going at Ganassi, and he's
Yeah.
the de facto leader basically once Scott Dixon retires at Chip Ganassi Racing. So if he's able to maintain his relationship and build upon that at CGR, he is basically guaranteed a long-term, a long career
Yeah,
at
absolutely,
CGR
yeah.
in IndyCar.
I mean,
And all
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah,
that,
exactly, exactly.
That article makes a good point. I mean, obviously there is this, there is this thing of what Alex wants, and like you pointed out, Alex does want. Apparently, I haven't read anything about it, but you told us last podcast that Alex wants to live in Spain and be in Europe and not be in the US long term. So who knows if that is also an aspect of
yeah, I mean,
moving
I don't
with
know, but as you
McLaren.
said, the article itself makes a brilliant point, and obviously, if like whatever happens, Alex is in for disappointment, and like I think Ganassi would be laughing at that day, if like not laughing in the sense, but yeah, he would be happy to let that go and move on with a new driver who respects and who maybe wants to build a career in Ganassi. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that at the moment, though, with everything that is going on. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Anything else that you want to talk about, Vedant, before we wrap up
nothing
this
for me to
podcast?
add. But it was great to see Joseph Newgarden back in the car after his Iowa crash and collapsing
Yeah,
after the
that is
crash.
true. Yeah.
Like even he doesn't know why he collapsed and what the reason was, but for him to be in the car and perform relatively well, I guess that was great. And I think he cleared his medical just like not on Sunday, but in the middle of the week or something. So he had very little time to actually prepare for the weekend. But yeah, that's about it from my side.
Well, yeah, it's been great talking to you, Vedant, about IndyCar last 4 rounds ago. We are headed to Nashville next. It was a chaotic race last time we were there, and we'll see how it goes this time around. Stay tuned for all that is to come, and as always, we'll catch you on the next one.